Hi, hello, and welcome to yet another live session for our Love of You series in collaboration with IEC. And today we're going to talk about toxic relationships, a topic that already has been covered through Instagram and on a lot of places, but something that is of utmost importance because precisely according to reports, 7 out of 10 people have reported of being in a toxic relationship in some part or the other in their life, be it with their family member, friend, or a partner. And to talk about this, I am going to have with me Dr. Trinjhna Khattar, who works as a psychotherapist at IEC and conducts consultations and psychotherapy sessions with adults where she specifically focuses on relationship counseling. She manages a number of mental health initiatives run by IEC in schools, communities, and on edutech platforms. I'm just going to have her with me in about a couple of seconds, and till then, to all of you, if you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the comment section and we shall take them up. Hi,
Hi,
how are you?
good. Good to see you.
Yes, same here. I hope that we are finally able to do this today.
I hope so too. Thank you, Piyush, for joining as well.
So I was just telling our viewers about how 7 out of 10 people are usually have reported being in a toxic relationship. So wanting to hear from you today, what exactly is a toxic relationship? Can you hear me? Okay, I believe the screen has frozen
There's a
and there seems. Yeah. I can't see you.
Is there a connectivity issue again?
Right. I, yes, I think so.
So then we'll switch to a recording and then we'll upload the recording. What do
I
you
can
say?
hear you. I can hear you clearly right now, but I can't see you. So you suggest what do you want to do then in that case? Do you want to wait for a couple of seconds so that the yeah, now I can see you. Now I can see you.
Can you know?
Yeah. So
And can you hear me clearly?
yes, now I can hear you clearly.
So you asked me what is a toxic relationship, right?
Right.
In order to understand what is a toxic relationship, let us look at what is a healthy relationship. So
Right.
in a healthy relationship, vitamin A is very high. Now, what is this vitamin A? Vitamin A is, am I attended to? Are my needs met? For example, we have certain friends with whom we just want to not think and have fun. But there are certain friends with whom we want to have these intellectual conversations, talk about our big plans. We have different kinds of friends, right? So they fulfill different kinds of needs. So our needs are attended to. Then they accept us, they respect us. But come to a point where we have some conflict with our parents, for example, right? So हमें लगता है your parents are not understanding us. They just treat me as a child. There is a certain sense of, affection, that bond which is inherent, which is there. We feel supported, we feel cared for. But in my practice, I may have clients who say, like an adult client may say that all my parents want is, how many jobs I've applied to, whether I finished my assignments, what is going to happen in my future. They don't even sit with me and ask me, how are you doing? What are my new interests? What are my hobbies? What is it that's personally bothering me? So they don't feel supported, cared for in the way they need. Okay.
Hmm.
Also, somewhere there is some kind of agreeableness. You agree to disagree. We
Hmm.
feel like the other person मेरी बात मान जाते हैं, right? So our healthy relationship has all these components of the vitamin A.
Right.
But what happens in an toxic relationship? Imagine the opposite. We are put down, we are belittled, we are not respected. We have a lot of conflicts on very often or many on many small matters.
Hmm.
So then that becomes difficult to manage and it's just sort of sapping our energy.
Hmm.
And this toxic relationship is not just in intimate relationships like dating or marriage, or it can also happen with friends. It can happen between coworker and other coworkers and peers or the boss. It
Right.
can happen between a parent and an adult child.
Hmm.
So often in counseling, we'll see these patterns, and that's what we then work on.
Right, right. Like you said that, I mean, it's not necessarily in a partner relationship or a romantic relationship. What I have seen also being a trend is that when you've started your, office or your work, or possibly even in a romantic relationship, everything is very rosy initially. Everything is good. You feel you're getting all the support, you're getting all the love. But gradually, with time, there's other things kind of come into the picture. There are going to be fights and arguments, and possibly in some cases, it can also get toxic. So, why do you think does that happen?
Absolutely true. This does happen that initially it starts off fine, right?
Hmm.
So we all choose to get into that company, to get into that relationship, saying yes to this person, I want to be with this a long term with them. And the first year is pretty nice. Okay, who's the people here? So imagine you are going to board a train. Okay, board a train. The train has
I
you
can't hear you. I can't hear you. You lost you. Imagine, say, I lost you.
and can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. Probably be doing a lot of editing to the video and then uploading it. All right. So imagine you are getting into a train.
Hmm.
Okay? Now that train was meant for Churchgate, was meant for Baroda, was meant for Goa. There is some final destination to that train.
Hmm.
So we enter a relationship thinking that okay, this take me where I want to go.
Hmm.
Now there are certain co-travelers on the train, our co-passengers. These are the people we enter the and we think that it's the right. Both want to go only.
Hmm.
We are co-travelers. As time passes by, we realize that okay, this is not coming, this is not going through. So what's happening? On the train, you may have passengers who are sharing a home cooked meal, or you're getting this window seat, आराम से बैठ के, ठंडी हवा आ रही है और वो लेते लेते आप जा रहे हो, right? You enjoy the views outside.
Hmm.
Some of us have, many of us, in fact, have relationships which are also healthy. There is certain ease, comfort in them. Yes, but the bumps are there, day-to-day issues आते हैं जाते हैं, nothing too heavy. But what
Hmm.
happens is that as time goes by, somehow we stop doing the work that any relationship needs. There's a big
Hmm.
myth that relationship should come easy. No relationship comes easy, and there is some amount of work we have to put into it from time to time.
Hmm.
We tend to take our relationships for granted that अरे यार कितनी सारी चीजें मुश्किल है लाइफ में, यही चीज पे काम करेंगे तो बाकी सब कैसे करेंगे.
True.
While that's true, but there is some work that needs to happen. So all relationships need that, and overhauling needs to happen from time to time. So that's one reason why it may turn toxic. The other reason is that over time, what has happened is the final destination itself has changed.
Hmm.
What people want from their life, they are not aligned on what that final destination is. So I want to remain a non-vegetarian or I want to become a vegan. So that itself is a different sort of journey both partners will take, right?
Hmm.
Our values, our needs change. We are evolving as people. And if we don't have the spare capacity to accommodate, to adjust to our partners or in that organization, then over time we are feeling like there is no shared value, there is no shared need. What are we getting from this relationship? क्या रखा है इसमें? And it's not like we are enjoying the
Hmm.
views together. The view on the train journey, बाहर का तो कोई फर्क ही नहीं है because every day is becoming difficult to stay with that person,
True.
you know, and that's why it's becoming toxic. So
Hmm.
some patterns are visible in the beginning.
Hmm. Hmm.
We can know that. In fact, a lot of research also says that people who are less confident about themselves tend to be at risk of entering into toxic relationships, or they may increase the toxicity in their relationship.
This is something new.
Yes. So, in fact, when I have couples who are coming in, who are dating, who are living in, and they may come in for counseling because before they enter a long term partnership or marriage, it's a lot of things can be explored, taken care of,
Hmm.
and they can prepare for actually getting into a stable relationship. So
Hmm.
it's pretty helpful. That's what we call as premarital counseling. But if this is not done, then in time we may see that, okay, the communication gaps come in. There is nagging, there is blaming, there is lying. We may ghost the other person from time to time. We may make them feel guilty. We are feeling like we are gaslighted, or they are gaslighted, and it's just making us feel so underconfident, questioning our thought processes. So we have to ensure we put in that work and also realign our goals.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. So, coming from there, I mean, I had this particular thing in mind, that how does one know that the relationship is toxic, or the relationship is just possibly right now not in a good phase, or is just poor? Are there some signs to differentiate between that? कि हाँ ये मेरे लिए toxic है और ये सिर्फ relationship poor हो रही है, which is something that we can work upon.
So, how to understand whether it is poor or not? I think a simple identification sign could be, or something as simple as what we call in Hindi, asthirta, volatility.
Hmm, hmm, hmm,
So, imagine you're in an aeroplane and there is turbulence.
hmm,
So typically, we'll be instructed, please fasten your seat belts because you need to be, there's turbulence
hmm,
and you're taking care of yourself.
hmm,
Imagine being in a relationship like that. Can you really move? Can you just stretch your legs? Do you have the freedom to go to the galley, get yourself some tea? No, right? We have to be alert. Also, when there is turbulence in the flight, we will be very conscious. Oh, baap re, kya hoga? I don't know. We're very alert, right? We're like, oh no, what's happening with this flight? So we are very anxious all the time. So we
hmm,
are on the edge.
hmm,
Remaining in a toxic relationship can feel like being in a turbulent flight,
hmm,
where we are sort of always alert. And
hmm,
it doesn't allow us to be spontaneous, have
hmm,
fun, relax, just be. There is lack of easiness into the
hmm,
relationship.
hmm,
So we have to check out for what this volatility is about. Okay.
hmm,
Now, there are different reasons why this turbulence may come up.
hmm,
And those signs we need to understand. If we are having these relationships and these signs, then we need to definitely address them,
hmm,
and we need to figure what we can do to improve the relationship.
hmm.
So some of them, largely it is from the realm of when either we are doing it or the other person is doing it. क्या होता है ना, whenever we have these talks, हमेशा बोलते हैं कि हम तो भाई
हम
बिल्कुल ठीक है,
परफेक्ट है, सामने
हमारे साथ
वाले
तो
में
कोई
गड़बड़
प्रॉब्लम
है.
नहीं है. हाँ,
True,
हम तो कुछ करते नहीं है ना.
true.
But what I want to really emphasize upfront is that the ताली दो हाथ से बजती है, right? So there is some stuff we do, and there is some stuff we get triggered by, and there is some stuff we have to take charge of,
Hmm,
and they have to take charge of.
hmm,
Either of us, we have to check: are we putting down the other person? Now, how do we do that, right? So we are putting down in terms of, are we criticizing? कोई चीज पे criticize करना है, but we will, make it as a character flaw. Like something is wrong with
तुम
them
तो
as a
ऐसे
person.
करते हो, you do this, तुम like I know.
You think that you don't think about how your behavior is impacting the other people. You are a horrible cook. You dress up so shabbily. Even something as simple as that, or you never think of me.
Hmm,
So there is a blanket statement that is also said, which puts the other person down when we criticize them.
hmm,
At times we belittle their feelings, we trivialize them. We say,
hmm,
अरे मैंने तो ऐसे मजाक में बोल दिया था, तुम इतने serious क्यों हो गए? We don't consider that their feelings, I mean, they have a right to feel what they are.
hmm,
We call them oversensitive. Or we may make certain comments at their expense, maybe in front of other people, or we may pull their leg when we know it hurts.
hmm,
We may mock them, some name calling.
hmm,
कभी कभी होता है, किससे बात कर रहे हैं, even in fact till my till somebody point out to me, if I'm rolling my eyes, just my body gestures and the tone of voice, just that,
true.
or just, even that eyes rolling thing that we do, those are ways that we also show contempt. We sort of use sarcasm, and we somewhat ridicule the other person,
Hmm,
give them disrespect, we don't respect them.
hmm,
And then, like I earlier said, we get defensive that, okay, you didn't understand what I was trying to say. Sorry भी बोलना हो तो हम लोग sorry कैसे बोलते हैं? I'm so sorry you got hurt. But we should say, I'm so sorry I hurt you.
True.
मतलब सॉरी भी बोल रहे तुम्हारी जिम्मेदारी है कि तुम बुरा मना रहे हो, राइट? We don't take the responsibility.
Hmm.
So doing that, sometimes we're also holding a lot of resentment.
Hmm.
Why the toxicity in the relationship increases? Because something happened in my 5-year-old relationship in the beginning.
Hmm.
You never take responsibility for the wrong you do. You always tell me. So I keep bringing it up, and then I build resentment in the relationship.
Hmm.
So अगर सामने वाला आपकी बात समझ गया है, if he's understood or she's understood what you have said, then it's important that we let it go. Some baggage has to be written off.
True.
The person made that transformation. If the person was insensitive to us, we pointed it out and we bring it up again,
Hmm.
and they have actually been careful, then and you tell them, "Tum to hamesha, you just trivialize whatever I have to say, you don't respect my feelings,"
Hmm.
then that person will come back to my starting point. कुछ फर्क ही नहीं पड़ा मैंने इतने टाइम में क्या किया. And the resentment in that feeling, in that relationship increases.
Hmm.
So what I was talking about is toxicity is when we're putting down.
Hmm.
Nidhi, another aspect is our need to keep controlling other people around us. Means हमें कितना मजा आता है ना लाइफ में control, and we learned it from COVID, right? We learned from COVID that nothing is in our control, and when we are anxious, we want everything in our control. We are trying to tell them what kind of clothes they should wear, how they should get dressed up, where we should go and eat. We are trying to also control them in the way of how they spend time with others.
Hmm.
Sometimes early on in the relationships, each of us would have a friend where their partner told them, अरे spend more time with me, तुम्हारे पास तो मेरे लिए वक्त नहीं है. Initial part we understand, but after some time we sort of are figuring something is off in this relationship. Why is my friend getting distanced from me?
Hmm.
That is a big marker of entering toxic relationships, where we realize we are not being able to spend time with other relationships that matter to us.
Hmm.
We start feeling a bit isolated.
Hmm.
Sometimes in some relationships, it could be that there are certain conditions put on us. If I tell you this, I will care for you, I will love you only if अब तुम भरो इसमें क्या भरना है.
Yeah.
Ways of behavior, that's when it becomes very conditional. I may say, I don't feel like being intimate with you because you're not working out enough and I don't get attracted to you.
Yeah. True.
You're concerned about the person's health, but let it not impact the communication of the relationship. It has to be worded in a different way so that the person doesn't feel like your your care is conditional. There has to be unconditional love over there. Sometimes we try to control even by the way we stonewall, right? Psychologists use this term where we distance ourselves from the other कि मुझे तुमसे बात ही नहीं करनी है.
Hmm.
You are upset, you are misbehaving, something you don't like about them, I will not eat my food. I don't want to talk. We'll try to make them sort of stop responding to them.
Hmm.
Sometimes, okay, we take that break to soothe ourselves out, but if we continue to stonewall, if we continue to, not address a conflict, then that is problematic.
Right.
Then there could be jealousy. I can go on, right? There could be jealousy that comes into that relationship. Little bit of jealousy, research says, is actually fun also because it keeps the couple glued together.
True. True.
Little bit of jealousy helps the relationship
I think
slightly.
like when you told the jealousy bit, something that just comes in my mind. I mean, I had heard this, from like a personal experience rather. So I remember this a friend coming and telling me, यार मतलब मैं कुछ भी करती हूँ वो jealous ही नहीं होता. I don't think he loves me. He's not jealous only. And I'm like, and then these terms, how people have started using these terms so casually that he's not even possessive about me. I'm like, why would you want your partner to be possessive about you? So, but to look at it in a manner that it can also be toxic, but yeah, like you said, that a thin line of jealousy can be fun also.
So it is like वो मिर्ची जब डालते हैं कोई खाने में, just the right amount for that little bit of spice that's needed, so
Right.
that you have that little fun, little pungent, sensation on your tongue. But you have to be careful that how are we communicating this? How are we
Hmm.
trying to control the other person, checking their phone, asking their whereabouts? Because we have to we have to communicate our trust also in that relationship. But when a relationship is getting far from bad to worse to toxic, it is where the jealousy increases. And in some relationships where people are cohabiting, living together, or married, it could also be that there are certain negative, what we call financial behaviors. कि बड़ी चीज खरीद ली बताया नहीं, or not helping the other person to remain financially independent, or at least have some control over the cash flow.
Hmm.
So those are some major markers of remaining toxic, having relationships which are toxic. But a big one really, when we feel that volatility is there, just imagine of like how it is to walk on eggshells.
Right.
Forget walking on eggshell. Egg को तोड़ना भी, it is like अच्छा अभी we have to be just right for that half right. It's like that full concentration doesn't let you relax, and you are wondering okay, did I do something to tick off the other person? So we are doubting ourselves. हमारा confidence कम होते जाता है.
Hmm.
Now those are signs that okay, this toxicity is really increasing. We've got to address it.
Right, right, right. But when it also comes to a point that I know that this relationship is getting toxic, and but a lot of times that the person does not have an option of getting out of that relationship. Like, because of course the famous saying goes, लोग क्या कहेंगे 5 साल की relationship है अगर अब मैंने breakup कर दी, or everyone knows about it, or possibly a lot of times they have a family together, or this thing is also pretty common these days that oh I love my partner, so I don't want to leave him, I think मैं उसको सुधार सकती हूँ. So what do you do if in those cases, and how does one continue to stay, I mean, how do you tackle this, get out of the relationship? And I don't know, but yeah, this is something that I have honestly seen a lot, so something that just yeah.
Yeah, I think when we look at the relationships as we are growing up, we are seeing people being in certain relationships where you're like, why the hell is this person still here? निकले क्यों नहीं
Hmm.
है यहाँ से? It's a big question we have in our minds. So I think let me give a disclaimer. Any kind of violence cannot be condoned. So it
Hmm.
is absolutely not okay to say, okay, one can adjust, things will. There is a lot of psychology related to that cycle of violence, which is a separate conversation. But let me just put it up front that violence is not okay.
Hmm.
And the person who's being violent is responsible for it, for sure.
Hmm. Hmm.
But many of our relationships then may not be that level of violence, yet it is toxic. So now we're going to talk about that and say, Kacha, isme how do you stay?
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
Now, why do we stay? Another reason is that think of that, that time when you did some gambling. You enjoy doing that. क्या होता है gambling में?
जाते हो,
We go
करते हो. True, true.
when you go, you don't know when you'll hit that jackpot, or if you will be, you'll get that reward, or that strike. When you will get that strike, you don't know, and that's what keeps us interested in continuing gambling.
Right, right.
Same thing happens for relationships. We don't know. वो गैम्बलिंग की तरह है. We don't know when we'll hit the jackpot. वो कब आएगा पता नहीं, and that keeps us going कि कभी तो आएगा ना, because पहले भी कभी तो आ ही गया था ना.
True, true,
And
true.
also fundamentally, like we already discussed, right? The relationship was healthy. You had a final destination. There were views. You planned of how the view will be outside the window when you decided to travel together.
True, true.
But it just so happened that things changed for you, and now a lot of the work actually that we do when we work with people who are in toxic relationships
Hmm.
is trying to just identify and accept the situation. कि ये है.
Hmm.
And very often people may stay on, they may not even, like they may have some inkling that my partner is cheating on me, but they will not confront it. They will try to adjust to it because it is very hard, because we feel like, मुश्किलें आती है रिलेशनशिप में, सबके साथ होता है, which is true, but सबके साथ इतना नहीं होता कि you can't resolve it. You have to still work on the relationship, and we'll come to that.
Hmm.
So it's important that we understand that what are my biases, myths, assumptions, and that's the work we do in family or couples therapy, or when we work with clients on their relationships. We help them actually go back to what are the assumptions they've made.
Hmm.
कि लाइफ डिफिकल्ट होनी चाहिए.
True.
नहीं ना, there has to be some easiness also to it,
Hmm.
and we help them understand. So if if you find yourself in a toxic relationship, how do you continue? First, just understand what is this situation.
Hmm.
What will happen with that acceptance कि हाँ ये मेरे लिए tough है, we will accept that okay, the relationship is very hard and we are trying to make it less hard.
Hmm.
And from there is a softness that comes to us. There is some compassion. We quit the victim mode and we say, अच्छा मुझे proactively अब क्या करना है इसके बारे में.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
When we start doing that, then we have to also take responsibility for our own feelings and not take responsibility for the other person's feeling.
Right. Hmm.
तो
Right.
वो क्यों, उनको क्यों एडिक्शन हुई, वो क्यों दारू पीते हैं, वो क्यों, मतलब ये सब चीजें, वी आर, इट्स अ डिजीज,
Hmm.
addiction is a disease, and any kind of anything they are violent because I triggered it, that's also incorrect.
Hmm.
So they have to accept, we have to accept that their feelings are their responsibility, and also not use this victim mode कि they irritated me, my child irritated me. I'll have young parents often and I'm talking to them because about parenting, that it's very, very stressful, especially when you're working from home, keeping a job. We are in nuclear families now. And I'll try highlight this that, the child didn't irritate you. It is, you chose to get irritated because you were out of spare capacity. You were not there to accommodate the child's need at 10 p.m. in the night.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So taking responsibility for our feelings. And with that, earlier in the previous conversations, we've spoken about setting boundaries.
Hmm.
तो हमने एक सेशन किया था, कॉन्वर्सेशन की थी on setting boundaries. So how do I draw my boundary and how do I communicate that to my partner, to my child, to my friend?
Right.
How do we save that? कितनी with the text, with the conversations on text, कितनी बार होता है ना that the person is messaging me and I will get triggered because they are blaming me for something and I feel that मेरी गलती इतनी नहीं थी, ये ज्यादा overreact कर रहे हैं. I have to draw my personal boundary that I'm not going to reply on text. I
Right.
have to tell them that this needs a phone conversation. Can I call you now? And
Hmm.
invest in that relationship, do that work, or maybe talk at a time when you're more calm.
Hmm.
But that boundary that we have to maintain, कि यार कुछ चीजें resolve नहीं हो सकती, understanding us.
Hmm.
और ये कहाँ से आएगा? ये आएगा if we know how to manage our anxiety and fear. We fear we'll lose this person, we'll lose the status,
Hmm.
we'll probably lose, there's a lot of ambiguity. We can't predict, there is no stability in the relationship. So that
Hmm. I think I lost you. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Hmm. Uh, no, I can't hear you. Are you there?
yes, I'm there. Can you hear me, see me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I can't see you. It's like frozen.
We'll probably have to wait a few seconds. Let's
Yes.
try that because it was
Yeah.
coming back.
Yeah. Yeah.
How
Yeah.
easy, how easy will it be for you to edit this and then post it for viewers?
I will not be able to edit an IGTV, no. It will directly go in when once I end it on the I end the IGTV, it will directly go on to my IGTV once I end the live.
But you can download it and then we can edit it
Yeah, maybe we could try to doing that. Let's see how this works. But yeah, now I can see you.
and you can hear me clearly.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I think this
Okay.
exactly is how toxic relationship is, though, in that case. That
तो
happens.
अच्छी, जब मुझे बात करनी है तो सामने वाला नहीं है, जब सामने वाले को बात करनी है तो मैं नहीं हूँ. We are not at that same place. Absolutely. In fact, when couples come in and or parents for that matter, we realized कि उनके पास common time ही नहीं है बात करने का.
Right.
टाइम एक, हर बंदा अपने मील टाइम पे खाना खा रहा है, हर बंदा they are busy with their own studies or work. So the first step we say is have common time.
Hmm.
Now we
Right.
were talking about how do you stay in that relationship, right? So exactly this, if there is toxicity in our family life, in our relationship,
Um, there seems to be some sort of a technical glitch. Are you all able to hear me? If you could just put it in the comments. I have lost you again. I have lost you again. Uh, Guys, are you able to hear me by any chance, or am
Can
I
you hear me
audible?
right now?
Yeah, I can, but I can't see you.
Let us wait for a few seconds and see.
Yes, yes, yes.
अब ना मैं नींद में भी कॉन्वर्सेशन कर पाऊंगी बिकॉज इतनी बार प्रैक्टिस कर चुकी हूँ कोई
I am sure, I'm sure. Yes, अब आप आ गए हो, आप आ गए हो.
अब मुझे अब सुनाई दे रहा है.
हाँ, perfectly.
So you had asked the question that, okay, how do you stay in this toxic relationship,
Hmm,
right?
hmm,
And we were talking about people being on different planes. कि अब उससे बात करें तब मैं free नहीं हूँ. So
hmm,
the first thing we often tell when families come in is you schedule your connect time. कि वो कब
hmm,
actually बैठ के बात हो पाएगी.
hmm.
बट अपने लिए बात करने को भी जैसे एक एक क्लाइंट ने मुझे बताया कि हमने तो स्केड्यूल किया टाइम. But it was more like my parents were talking and I was just listening. They didn't want to hear what I had to say.
Right. Oftentimes
Sometimes so
happen.
so then we have to those are things we can talk about. But what's important is that we learn first to manage our own anxiety and fear.
Hmm,
What is this anxiety about? We have to how do we manage it? So simple
hmm,
thing like just locating our breath, just breath awareness itself
hmm,
immediately gives a sign to our body that relax, relax, relax.
hmm,
So we have to, why are we anxious all the time? We are anxious because we don't know when we're walking on eggshells, right? We are alert, we are in that turbulent flight. That is why we are anxious. We don't
right.
know what will trigger the other person, how will the day be today. I don't want to look at this person. So there's some sort of edginess we're living with, which is chronic,
Hmm,
kind of a chronic stressor. So it's important that we soothe ourselves. And then
hmm,
if we are choosing to remain in this toxic relationship because of maybe no other, alternatives, then somewhere eventually what is also important is to cultivate forgiveness. And I know this is a very heavy duty thing I'm saying, कि how can you forgive somebody for the wrongdoing?
hmm,
But then what is it allowing us? It is just giving us more and more things to get bothered by, irritated by, remain upset about. But when we inculcate forgiveness, somewhere we actually heal ourselves. So
hmm.
every day, every hour, every minute, sometimes we need to remind ourselves of the forgiveness we want to give because we want to heal ourselves.
Hmm, hmm, right,
Those are some of the things we can do if we choose to stay in a relationship that is not healthy.
right. So, coming from this, also a point where you spoke about violence. So, I mean, with regards to violence, it's not always physical violence, but also emotional violence. So, could you just shed some light upon what exactly does emotional violence look like?
So emotional violence could be in the way, like all of the things I mentioned about belittling, about putting us down,
Hmm,
trying to control us. Those
hmm.
are some of the signs of emotional violence,
Okay,
which
okay.
are very subtle. So, we tend to understand violence as being something which is physical,
Hmm,
where we are hit, or there is some sort of addiction that is involved, or there is infidelity,
hmm,
those are outside, but the day-to-day struggles are involved and they put us down, they make us feel inferior, and we don't get respected over and over time to such a level where our self worth, sense of who we are is crushed.
right, right. So, coming from that, do you think that a toxic relationship can become a healthy one over time? Like, or am I just
So,
keeping my hopes too high when I'm asking you that question?
so, like we said, in terms of when it comes to addiction, violence, let's keep that separate. But when it comes to relationships where there is higher toxicity, then it's important to understand, are both people in that equation willing to work it out?
Hmm,
So if an employee says, I don't feel satisfied anymore at work because of the work culture, what is, and it brings us up to the company will do something to make the person comfortable. तभी
hmm,
जाके they will retain that employee, right? So
hmm,
the effort should happen from both sides.
hmm,
If we, like you said, that false hope, if we think that without doing any work,
Hmm.
There's a magical bond that counseling can do, and me getting my partner to counseling will make that difference. I don't want to change or do anything, but talk to my partner.
Hmm.
Then I must say, like even with clients, I will say, ये नहीं हो पाएगा. वो पहले ही मैं बोल देती हूँ कि नहीं होने वाला है. So you rather, we rather not go ahead then.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because we need to be willing to make it work. That's the
Hmm.
first thing. Now, how do we understand how to go from toxicity to again becoming healthy and changing certain habits? So
Hmm.
I went over, my work with couples or in relationships between adults and their parents. And I was thinking about the four pillars of a relationship.
Hmm.
So if these four pillars are there, then we can still have some hope that the relationship can become better.
Right.
Okay. What are these four pillars? And I'm going to explain each one of them. But the four pillars are fondness, personal fondness that we have for each other, taking responsibility,
Right.
being willing to change, and dealing with conflicts.
I think with each pillar now that level is increasing. जैसे बोलते ना गेम में how the difficulty level increases with each pillar that you've spoken, the level is increasing. Like okay, पहला वाला कर सकते हैं, दूसरा वाला थोड़ा difficult है, तीसरा oh my god. So yeah.
एंड चौथा वाला ये मत करवाओ मुझसे.
True, true, true. But it is
It
important.
may seem like that. It may seem like that. तो ये अगर ये चार पिलर्स नहीं बोलने हैं, ये स्टेयरकेस बोलना है, आपको पहुंचना है पहली मंजिल तक, तो स्टेयरकेस तो लेना पड़ेगा ना. सो टेक दिस एज योर स्टेप्स एंड से कि पहली चीज क्या है. Establish, am I really fond of this person? Maybe it is a friendship and you feel that the friendship is toxic. Then are we friends since junior KG, since college, since school? There's so much that's happened. There's so much personal regard that this person has done for me in the past that I can never not be their friend.
Hmm.
कभी कभी होता है ना, as we grow as adults, there are some relationships that we're like, it's a given, yeah, we have to be there for each other. Maybe like with our sibling, for example.
Hmm.
As we are growing up with siblings also, we have different trajectories in our life. But there is a stand, love as a stand, or with our parent, you can't not have that. Love as a stand does not change.
Hmm.
Not
Hmm.
with all parents, but yeah, ये चीजें होती है. So we have to decide where we are on it.
Hmm.
And then from there we can, अगर वो establish हो गया ना, then daily repairs करना easier होता है.
Hmm.
So when couples or any family comes to me, that's the first thing we try to establish, that
Hmm.
okay, can they recognize that there is an unconditional love component to this relationship, that love as a stand will not change.
Hmm.
So अभी हमारे साथ क्या हो रहा है, we are living in different time zones, our friendships are across continents, across countries, okay, and as a result we are losing some of this connection. So how do we increase this personal fondness, and how do we take that toxic relationship to a tonic relationship?
Hmm.
Start investing time, create shared meaning, shared values, give them a context of your life. When we are across time zones, मुझे पता नहीं आपकी लाइफ में क्या चल रहा है. What are you feeling about the house move you've just done? What are you feeling about the people, the new people you are with? So often people abroad will go to study and then they will say, but I'm finding it so difficult to adjust. You're relocating to a different city than your parents.
Hmm.
लड़के वहां से निकल तो आए, but then you're feeling bad about it
Hmm.
because you're missing them and you don't know how to come to terms. So how do you express that? Build
Hmm.
that in so that the bond, the communication improves. So can we spend some quality time there if we are with, if we are in the same.
I lost it. I lost. I can't hear you. Um, I lost. I can't hear you. I can't hear.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I can't see you. We'll have to give it a couple of seconds.
All right. So we have some questions coming in, is it?
Yes, yes, yes.
That's great. So I'll give it for you to answer that. Thank you so much for asking. We'll answer the questions towards the end. And can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Perfectly fine.
Okay. So I was saying that we have to start with some small fun activities. Sometimes, what happens, just like you said, that resolving conflict is like the final step. बहुत मुश्किल है यार ये करना. But the first thing, personal fondness, how can you build that? Play a card game, go for movies, watch TV together, just do activities together to get back to that stand that, okay, we are there for each other, we are fond of each other. Okay? Then step two is that, okay, responsibility. Do we take responsibility? When two people are in a space where they are working on a relationship,
Can our viewers please tell if am I audible or can you all hear us? Because I cannot hear our expert. So is it from my end or what is it? Could you all please just write in the comment section? Hi, can you hear me?
can you hear me?
Hello. Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I can. So we were at the responsibility bit.
Yeah, so the first thing I spoke about was the fondness that we can increase in the relationship. Then, are we willing to take action, responsibility, to take responsibility rather for our actions? जैसे वो मैंने sorry वाला example दिया, right? That I did it. I know I was unfair to you, and I take responsibility for that. Then, am I willing to change? So, change is the only constant thing in life.
True.
When we are young, we sometimes feel, I don't want to change. The other person should accept me the way I am. Some people call it sacrifice, compromise. I don't like to use those words because somewhere I feel sacrifice, compromise के words use करो तो कहाँ पर resentment आती है कि मुझे तो ना मतलब अपने को बदलना पड़ा तुम्हारे लिए. But बदलाव हर जगह पे हो रहा है. कोविड में तो हम सभी ने वो देखा है. We all have changed. And in a relationship, there is something that's going to come in. So it's important that when two people when they're open to change, then there is a lot that can be worked on. Yeah. So, but if somebody is going to detest it, like I was telling you about the client who said, "मुझे change ही नहीं करना है," then there is nothing much that can happen. And then finally, there is how do you deal with conflicts? So many times people are afraid of conflicts because there are certain myths, certain thoughts we have about conflicts कि conflicts होने नहीं चाहिए. It's bad, my relationship is bad if I have conflict because we have an assumption or a myth that relationship should be easy. The life set हो जाती है once you decide to, come together with somebody and we take things for granted. But conflicts are bound to happen because just as we are changing and our circumstances are changing, other person is also changing. उनके काम पे क्या हो रहा है? They have had a business loss with COVID. So much family stress is there in families, right? So we have to take that into account and understand that conflicts are actually transformational. They are not the problem. When we have a conflict and we sit and we understand each other, we grow from it, and in fact we become further resilient for future. कि आने दो जो आएगा, we are together and we'll manage it.
Right.
Because life is long and this is a long journey. We also need to understand that all conflicts cannot be resolved. Something as simple as I am somebody who likes to wake up early, but my partner is somebody who likes to crash in late. These are personality differences. So, where will you resolve it? There are certain accommodations that will be made, certain understanding, and we come to a common point of how we can share time together, right? So, it's important that when we are having those conflicts, we are not putting down the other person or belittling them. Sometimes, we tend to do gaslighting to the other person that I didn't mean it this way, but you always have to think. We make them question their thought, belief pattern. If we are emotionally intelligent, and that's also something we've spoken about in our previous, conversations, live sessions, we've spoken about conflict resolution. If we do that, then we know how to resolve these conflicts. And if a relationship is even toxic, we will be able to understand how to call it out and then work suitably.
Right.
So in counseling, when a couple may come in, then I will be looking at three things. Are they aware of the situation? What is happening? What about the other person triggers me? What about me triggers the other person? Am I taking responsibility for what I am saying?
Hmm.
They irritated me. No, you don't point there. You say what happened for you.
Right.
We start first working on that.
Hmm.
And then, okay, are they committed to change? These are
Yeah.
three aspects that we definitely look at if we want to understand whether this can even be transformed as a relationship.
Right. I think with regards to the conflict one, it just struck me right now that I'd read this beautiful quote which I'd like to share with our viewers also, which said that while in an argument, it's not about you versus me, but it's about us versus the problem. And that's what exactly what you try to tell us, that it's not about you two fighting with each other, and some conflicts are okay if they are not resolved, right? So I think we'll just take the questions that we've received from our viewers today, because we've received a couple of them. So I'd like to take those up. I'll just read that out for you. If you are not sure if you want to be in a relationship or if it's really love, however, you know your day is comfortable with that person in your life, and so is the partners, along with bonding. So is it a friendship with no with bonding, or a relationship without the other pillars?
So all pillars will be important in any kind of a relationship. Now that relationship may be intimate relationship, like with a partner, maybe somebody you want to have an intimacy with.
Hmm.
It could be a friendship, but all pillars somewhere will come up. Sometimes it also happens, it's a quantum of how much time have you spent with that person.
Hmm.
Because if initial phase where you don't know that person enough, then conflicts may not come up. There's not much you have lived together to confront those kind of conflicts
Hmm.
or situations. And for now, it can even be just friendship. But if you think this can grow, then with time, ये सफर लंबा हो जाता है ना. So parent relationship, a relationship with a childhood friend, a relationship with your partner, those are long term relationships. It's not andheri to Santa Cruz, right? It is full Bharat Yatra. So it's going to come with its ups and downs.
Right. So also, I'll just read out the other question for you. If I am in a toxic relationship, how can I get out of it?
So if you want to get out of it, well, I must first tell you that some research data says that person on average takes about 7 attempts before they actually end a toxic relationship.
Oh God, really?
Yeah, especially when it is as intense, even with violence. So this was related to violence data, but getting out of toxic relationship can almost feel like you're amputating a limb. It's super difficult because you loved this person. They were a part of you, and they really made you feel a certain way which nobody else did.
Hmm.
And hence, it can be extremely, extremely hard. But yes, there are ways of how you can do it. The first one is that can you focus on yourself? So, can you build your own confidence?
Hmm.
And sometimes we've had people who've come in for counseling and they have gradually worked with us to come out of and leave that toxic relationship because it's not working out for them. But even there, we try to figure how we can help them build their own confidence, do the activities, develop their interests.
Hmm.
That is really the first step because once they do that, then they're slowly learning how they can be kind and compassionate to themselves. So they're not blaming themselves for what the other person is doing.
Hmm.
The other person is in charge of their feelings. I'm in charge of mine. If I'm feeling like somebody's criticizing me, they're putting me down. So it's important that I first focus on increasing my confidence. So I do things, the whole series is about for the love of you. So focusing on self-care, focusing on self-love.
Hmm.
How do you do that? Taking out time to process our emotions.
Hmm.
Then the other aspect could be that we have to look at building a safety net.
Hmm.
So what does that mean? Who are the people? Confide in somebody who can give you some perspective that yeah, this is not okay. So can help you have that clarity, because what happens is in a toxic relationship we may be gaslighted and we may doubt our perceptions. Okay, maybe I'm thinking of this in an incorrect way, maybe things will get better, we feel underconfident, no? So when we have the perspective of another, then we know that we're thinking straight. And during such a time, we need to look at what our financial stability is. We have to make our finances better. We have to make a plan for it. Somewhere we have to even probably cut out that person from our life, stop talking to them. But here I'm not saying you ghost the other person, okay?
Right.
That is not okay.
Hmm.
Ghosting is not okay. What we have to do is somewhere be able to tell, unless it is a safety concern whether it's violence, but ghosting is not okay. We have to confront, and in a way that we don't blame them, still put our thought and needs across,
Hmm.
tell them that we are leaving this relationship and that's not working out for us, or that friendship, confront it. And for this we can seek professional help, that how do we slowly gradually work towards this journey.
Right. Right. So also, there was this question that I received yesterday when I had kind of, because of technical glitch that we faced. So what tips can you give on how to address your concerns to a loved one about their partner being toxic?
So when I think this will happen for both you and me, right? Where we want the other person to be safe. Now we are very concerned for our loved one.
Hmm.
We can see that this is not going to work out, and we try pester them. We give them perspective, but it may not work.
Hmm.
It's ultimately our circle of concern.
Hmm.
It is not our circle of control. So we have to understand that there is only what I do, what feelings I have, what actions I take is what I have in my control.
Hmm.
What the other person finally decides is out of my control.
Hmm.
I can't really make a difference on that. What happens is that we get upset with the other person. We try to push them away. We say, "Kya tu?" We judge them. We criticize them. We belittle them. We like, "You can't you see this?" Because we are very concerned about them. However, that is also our way of trying to control them.
Hmm.
To try quit that control cycle, which is further going to spoil that friendship, you have to ensure that your relationship with that person stays solid.
Hmm.
So be available to them. Most people who stay in a toxic relationship tend to be be scared of being lonely.
Hmm.
They don't want to be left out. Like, a person told me that even if I leave my partner, I don't think there'll be anybody else who will want to now be with me. So
Right.
I rather be here than not. That's their premise. They're scared of being lonely. And hence be available to them. Don't distance yourself from them, even if they're not willing to listen to you or follow what you're saying. Provide that listening. I think we all as friends somewhere, we are there, we are hearing, but are we truly listening? कि हम लोग अपना ही एजेंडा बोलना शुरू कर देते, कह रहे तुम्हें तो ऐसा करना चाहिए, solutions देना शुरू कर देंगे. When we are that mirror which the other person can look into and we just listen, we act like a mirror where the other person can truly know what they are feeling, thinking, they can hear themselves.
Right.
We make them feel good and confident. We have to be their cheerleader because
Hmm.
they have a very damaged sense of self. कि अरे मैं तो सब कुछ गलत ही कर रहा हूँ, मेरी लाइफ है जहाँ पे कोई रिलेशनशिप वर्कआउट नहीं कर रहा है. Work wise I'm fantastic, I'm maybe leading teams, but when it comes to a relationship, what have I got left? So at that time, we have to make that person feel good, confident about themselves. And then, if we want to build perspective, we have to share our observations, our concerns with them
Right.
without disapproving them. That, आपको समझ नहीं है. So not bring them the perspective and cut out from that false hope that they may have. जो lottery लगेगी मेरी, things बदलेंगी. So they have to understand and accept that it may not change, and yet I may choose to stay in the relationship, or no, I want to end it.
Right.
That I think is more helpful.
But definitely the choice is about, I mean, it's their choice. You cannot force them to get out of a relationship or to be in it. So,
Yes.
absolutely. So, one more, I see this question. Okay, that's when coming out of a toxic relationship, it happens that people go into the extremes of being extra careful with everyone else around. Have a safety net, even if you find someone who is a well-wisher of you. So, what are your views about that?
So because we've been so hurt, we will be careful, right? So imagine COVID अगर खत्म भी हो गया, will we stop using masks?
Honestly, I
For
can't wait for that day that I don't have to wear.
I we think so. Even I can't wait for that day. But at the same time, we will be like, अरे थोड़ा देर और we should be थोड़ा वो remnants रहेंगे शायद. Even with when कुछ कहाँ पर कुछ लग जाए, we're always a little bit careful because we are still anxious. So we have to understand that even though we may choose to quit a toxic relationship,
Hmm.
it doesn't mean we won't mourn the loss.
Hmm.
It is a loss. What happens is if I dump a person I don't want to be with, others may think, यार ये तो तुमने choose किया, so what are you sad about?
Hmm.
Because it was not working for me. But no, it is still a loss because there were also the bright parts, right? So we have to be sensitive to that person's need. And even if we are somebody who's having this difficult journey, give yourself time. It will settle, and sometimes professional help works. If you don't want professional help, you think you just want to confide in a friend, a sibling, a parent, then do that.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Because you need some time to heal.
Right. Okay. So we'll just take this question quickly because of the time constraints that Instagram has. So, what to do in a situation where both the people in the relationship want each other genuinely, but due to personal clashes and lack of communication skills and arguments, the relationship is turning toxic?
So if if it is that we know there are personality clashes, then we have to accommodate, adjust, compromise, sacrifice, change, whatever word you like, you pick, and do that because you're fond, and you have to understand that if there are no personality changes, I mean accommodations made and changes are not done, then the relationship is not going to last. So start with that. What are you agreeing to do, and what you're agreeing to disagree? कि ये चीजें मेरे से नहीं होगी, so I'll let go with my partner. So some communication has to be built in, and for that you need to first start scheduling the time. So for scheduling to resolve conflicts, if that seems like a very distant goal, start with the first step which we spoke about. Just start with personal fondness, whatever you all do enjoy. So appreciating each other is a good starting point.
Hmm.
Use appreciation a lot more in your relationship, and check yourself if you ever did it in the last few months.
Right. I think appreciating is something that's very rarely done these days. We expect to be appreciated, but हमसे वो चीज़ नहीं होती. मतलब हम नहीं कर पाते वो चीज़. But yeah. So, okay, I'll just have this one last question that we'll take for the day. What can one do when effort is given from one side but not reciprocated from the other?
So call it out. And how you call it out, you will have to ensure that you don't blame.
Hmm.
Don't put the other person down that तुम देखो कुछ criticize नहीं करना है, putting down नहीं करना है, belittling नहीं करना है, right? So we have to take ownership of our feelings and share how we are feeling and be careful not to blame.
Hmm.
And hopefully, if we have that communication, what tends to happen is we tell the other person, but we tell them in moments when we have a heated argument.
Hmm.
We're not telling them in spaces when we are calm and we are stable and we are willing. They may not react and respond. They not respond to us when they feel we are heated up because क्या point है अभी बात करने का.
Right.
So when you're calm, try to open that conversation. But if the other person is not willing to change, not accommodate, then maybe you confide in somebody or seek professional help because you may need to then leave that relationship because it's not going to work out.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I have a question. So, do you think we'll be able to take that because we just have about 2 minutes?
Sure, we can.
Yes. How can one deal with gaslighting?
Well, it is extremely difficult to deal with gaslighting on a day to day, when day to day it happens in a relationship. So, definitely, we have to look at understanding that when we are gaslighted, which means somebody we love, care for, hold in high regard, puts us down, they make us question. At that time, the first step which we can start off with is having the courage of our conviction and the belief that what we have thought of is not wrong.
Hmm.
So not have that self doubt. A simple example would be that if in a lunch, if there are two people who are dating and this person says, says to a boyfriend that you are flirting with those other girls. The truth of the matter is that the other girls were trying to flirt with him and he was just being polite. But
Right.
because of her worldview, she may say that you're flirting, and he tends to doubt himself and starts distancing himself from the other girls. कि इसके सामने मैं और लड़कियों से बात नहीं करूंगा. Because we bend over backwards to please our partner, no?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So that can also be a form of gaslighting. So
Hmm.
being in awareness of am I walking on eggshells? Being in awareness that this is It's not making me feel nice about myself. I'm not feeling confident about myself. And if that's a concern that needs to be brought out in the relationship, you need to address it with your partner
Right, right.
and focus on building your confidence.
Yes. I think the basic trunks of dealing with a toxic relationship is firstly communicating. That is of utmost importance. Like for every question that we have spoken and taken up, communication is important. And of course, you need to have your own boundaries and decide for yourself ki when do I need to get out of it. So thank you so much for this session. And thank you to all our viewers for sending in your questions and for staying in till the end. This is going to be saved as an IGTV. So if you have any further questions which we were unable to take, please write them in the comments and we're happy to take those. Thank you to you. Stay tuned for our upcoming live session, guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye.